crap.
Good start, Bruce.
I know. I got caught here with my pants down.
And they say that anyone can host a podcast. You know,
Literally, if you're letting me host it, we're yeah.
That's
I
where
was
we're
in the
at.
middle of typing something and then it just disappeared. Anyway, welcome to the Hangout here on Edmonton Sports Talk. We starting a little late because I was typing something up and then my screen changed. We have got a great show for you tonight. One of our newest hacks is joining us tonight, Mr. Ryan Black. We are going to talk to him a little later on in the show about some of the up-and-coming NHL players and who to watch here for the rest of the season and into next season.
you're going to talk to me before that, Bruce.
Oh, of course.
Whether you like it or not.
I ain't sitting here for half an hour with my mouth shut.
Oh, no, we're not going to let you do that. We're definitely not going to let you do that. No, we're going to start off talking tonight about the Edmonton Oilers trade deadline. We have to let Devon do his rant first, and then we can reply after, or rebuttal.
Bruce threw this into the notes, and I went, you know what? I'm actually kind of excited because, misery loves company. And Ryan, you and I are on the same page, I think, in terms of what the Edmonton Oilers accomplished at the trade deadline. And
we accomplished something at the trade deadline?
Well, maybe that's the more apt way to put it, but you know what I'm saying. and we haven't had a chance to actually have this conversation in person now that we no longer work together and we've missed a few shows together. So I know how you feel.
It's for the best. I've been terribly productive with you not at the office to complain about the Oilers with. I can't
it's
lie.
Probably a lot better for your checkbook.
I've had a great couple months. But I miss you, buddy.
I miss you too, man. I miss you too. Here's the thing. So, Bruce, you and I, we've talked about it lots, and maybe more recently, what kills me is that Ryan Rashog actually went on Edmonton Sports Talk here recently and made the comment that maybe the Edmonton Oilers are one defenseman short. Maybe they're playing in survival mode when they play teams like the Colorado Avalanche and they needed one more smooth skating top four defenseman to get them over the hump. Well, holy bleep. Are you absolutely kidding me? And what killed me about that comment from Rashog is that it's like he was making some grand proclamation that nobody had considered, that the Edmonton Oilers actually need another top four defenseman. And then Vinny Desharnais breaks his finger, and now we've got Troy Stecher playing in our top four.
That's not fair. I disagree with that comment.
Which part?
I think he was reading his notes from 5 years ago when he said that. When he said we might be missing a top four defenseman. I'm not sure that was a thought that Ryan Rashog just had. I think that he was like, I found this notebook from 2019, and it says here we might be missing a top four defenseman. And it occurs to me that might be the case. I think we were missing a top four defenseman in 2019 and 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and so on and so forth. It's ridiculous. The same problems we had when Holland came in are the same problems we have now, other than Skinner maybe is a little more reliable. We'll see in the playoffs. But, like when he came in, we had Larson. Larson left. We've now replaced Larson with Ekholm, which is a bit of an upgrade, but we're still missing a top four defenseman.
Yep.
And we've all known it forever. I've had it with this, let's get a center who can win faceoffs and play on. No. The only thing you had to do at this deadline was get a top four defenseman.
Look at Tyler Toffoli. Look at Tyler Toffoli. And Bruce and I talked about this lots, but the guy's got 4 or 5 goals in as many games since he's been playing for the Jets. And the acquisition cost on him 2 games. Yeah, 2 games.
A second round pick.
Nothing. Literally nothing, right? And we're sitting here going, well, you know what? We added some depth in the bottom 6. We have a guy who great penalty kill, can take faceoffs, blah, blah, blah. He's versatile. I don't care. Your job was to get a second line right winger, a top 4 defenseman, and some people still felt we really needed a goaltender. I'm fine with Skinner. I think Skinner's been fantastic for the majority of the season, and Calvin Pickard has surprised everybody, and he's been more than serviceable. He's been phenomenal, actually, in terms of what that guy was expected to do. But it's funny. So I got so fired up because you look at what happened around the league, right? Everybody, and Ryan, we did a show on this, you did a show on this. I don't want to go on that path so much, but it's just the fact that now, like, we're sitting here post deadline and we've got people from TSN, people a lot smarter than you and I, apparently, saying that, well, hey, maybe we were a little bit short. Maybe we should have questioned what Holland did. I don't know. It's just absolutely brutal. And then Bruce, so he makes his moves on Wednesday, March 6th. He goes on Oilers Now, basically tells Bob Stauffer, yeah, I think we're basically done. I'm going to get a cup of coffee in the morning. I'm going to make a couple phone calls and see how things go. And then the Edmonton Oilers proceed to lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Buffalo Sabres.
Yep.
They walk over Pittsburgh, who they've walked over all season long. They walked over the Capitals, who was kind of expected. And then this big game on the 16th, right? And everybody's watching this game. They've got it circled on the calendar against the Avalanche. And to me, it was a close game, right? Like that game, if Nuge had scored on that one breakaway, we're having a different conversation, right? Like the game was there for the taking. But it still felt like they were in survival mode for so much of that game. And Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we're not having this conversation if we win that game. Watching that game just to me was more proof that we're not going to beat Colorado in a 7-game series, no matter which way the game went. We were outclassed in that game, and we were lucky to get the point. As far as I'm concerned, I agree. There were chances to win it, but like the first 2 games of the Colorado series, I will point to that crazy not offside Makar goal. Yeah. And I think it was game 2. Up until that goal, it was the exact same kind of series that we saw in the game last week. It was maybe this is anyone's game, but as soon as they scored that goal, it was over. The series was over after that.
That's all felt for sure.
And I think that they will face the same fate against the Avalanche if they have to play them this year. And how awesome was it? Maybe awesome is the wrong word. Did you notice who got 2 goals that night for Colorado?
Sean Walker.
Yeah. Did you hear who the Oilers looked at real closely and decided wasn't worth the first? Now here's
Sean Walker.
I don't know if you guys saw this. We could have got, if we had made a move of first and CC for Walker, which was pretty darn close to what they got. So let's call it a first, a third, and CC for Walker. We would have had enough cap space to make the Toffoli deal without any retention. So it would have cost us a 2nd round pick and maybe a 3rd more than what we ended up paying for Adam Henrique and captain friggin' replacement player. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the face puncher's name. He got in a fun fight last night.
Oh, Sam Carrick.
Yeah, Carrick. I don't care about Sam Carrick. Don't even list him in the trade. I don't care. It's so
no. It was brutal, and you can't tell me that Tyler Toffoli and Sam Carrick would not have been a significant upgrade on this roster over Adam Henrique and Toffoli and Walker. Sorry, yeah, and like it should have happened. It should have happened, and it was so frustrating to sit and watch Ken Holland go, "We're going all in this year," and then that's what they did, really. And no disrespect to Adam Henrique, who I think is actually a serviceable player, and I think if he's playing on the 3rd line, can be an impactful player come playoff time. But you're right. I think it was scramble mode. It was survival mode. We're going to call it against the Colorado Avalanche. And to think about that game too, they still had no Landeskog, and Makar was playing sick. So you consider that Landeskog may actually be back in May, and Makar is going to be healthy.
Here's what it comes down to for me. Going into the week of the trade deadline, I didn't think that we could beat Dallas. I didn't think that we could beat Colorado. I don't think we can beat Vegas. And I think LA would probably be a tough out for us this year. I think they've had enough and they're underperforming. I feel no differently after the deadline. I'm not sure what teams we can beat in the West in a 7-game series at this point. I wouldn't hate to play Vancouver. Nashville is a team that we do really well against. But other than that, I don't know. I wouldn't bet on us to get out of the first round this year.
No, Bruce, I know you kind of feel the same way.
Yeah, it's even all the moves. I know you and I have debated. Like, it's Ken Holland. Like, he's not going to go out and make a big splash. He never was going to. We can debate this about Toffoli and stuff all we want. Holland's not going to do that because Jeff Jackson isn't going to let him. They're going to take whatever happens this season. They're going to dump it on Holland's shoulders. They're going to kick him out the front door, and they're in the off season here. They're going to do something about it.
But you know what? Sure, I agree. Here's my issue. It wouldn't have cost much more than what we paid for Henrique and Carrick to get to Foley and Walker. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying trade the next 3 first and Bourgault and Holloway and Broberg. Pay a second and a third more than you paid. Fill the holes that are necessary to be filled. Stop dragging Draisaitl down with Fogle and McLeod, who some games are great and other games are not. Like, enough.
Like, at the end of the day, we're still sitting here and we're going, Draisaitl is centering a line with Ryan McLeod and Warren Fogle. And no disrespect to those two players either, but man, those are not guys that should be in the top 6 of a Stanley Cup contending team.
No, they'd be a great third line.
Great third line, right?
And what has happened to Evander Kane?
He agreed, Bruce.
Toiling away on the third line, doing next to nothing.
What does he have? He's got, is it 21 goals this year?
Give me 1 second here. I've got him on my one fantasy team. I can bring it up here real quick.
Because I was just reading something about this on Twitter X.
He has got 21 goals and 17 assists.
Yeah, and someone said that those 21 goals came in like the first quarter of the season.
He hasn't scored a goal since February 19th was the last time he scored a goal.
Yeah.
So it's been a month since he scored a goal.
And it seems to me that he isn't all that interested in playing that hard, unless he's playing in the top 6 or next to Connor McDavid, right? And I mean, to be fair to Kane, he did sign to play in the top 6, but
absolutely,
and we talked about this too in an episode recently with Tyler, and I think that there's probably a good chance we see Kane get dealt at some point, whether it's this off season or the next. Like, he's only got 2 seasons left, I think, at 5.125. So maybe he doesn't
kick in until next year. So
so maybe he gets moved to clear some cap space, right? But anyway, long story short, I mean, Ryan's not here for me to gripe about with this, but I just think, man, they did not do anywhere close to enough at the trade deadline, and they're going to pay for it, man. And I really do think that this was their opportunity to show Draisaitl and McDavid that they were serious about moving forward and winning a Stanley Cup. Like, they've got a lot of guys in this roster that are outperforming expectations, even to this point, and they didn't do anything. Like, I know there's people from heavy hockey that'll totally disagree with me on this, but guys, in my opinion, not even close, especially when you look at what would happen relative to the rest of the league. We're not even close.
Well, when you look at, they talk about going all in this year. You take a look at, like you said, what Winnipeg has done, what Colorado went out and did. Like, these guys are going, look what Tampa has done in the past.
Look even what they did this year, Bruce.
Here at the deadline. Like, that is going all in. Like, Tampa has got, what do they have here? I forget how many draft picks they have over the next few years. It's next to nothing. Like, they have gone literally. So this year in the draft, they have their earliest pick is the 5th round this year. They have no first round this year. They have no first rounder next year. But literally, these guys are trading away everybody to get to that Stanley Cup. And the Oilers they can't decide if they want to keep the prospects. I don't know why, because from what I've read from several trade magazines, they're not really that good. So maybe that's why we still have them, because nobody wants them. Like, I don't know. Like,
it could be, Bruce. But you look at Tampa, and you and I've talked about that too, but it's like, this is a team that nobody really expected to do anything, and they went and they added Anthony Duclair, right?
And he has been fantastic since he has got there.
He's been great, and they added Matthew Dumba, and this is a team that's tight against the cap too, and doesn't have a lot of assets. Like, to me, but they've won their cups, right? And here's Edmonton, like they're kind of squandering the few assets they do have on almost replacement level players.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense, and the team deserve better. The fans deserve better. I just think that, and I really have concerns, like I said, about moving forward, whether or not Draisaitl and McDavid are with this team long term.
Well, I think and maybe it could be an aspect of having Holland and Jackson there, but they just can't figure out what to do with this team. Like you said, Fogle and McLeod shouldn't be in the top 6, but then how do you run? You can't run McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nuge down the line because they don't have the wingers to fill those spots in to make an effective top 9.
No, but
Like,
I think in
it's-
that case, Bruce, you probably relied on Ryan McLeod to be your third line center, which isn't ideal either. But that
Yeah,
just
I
would have been,
don't know.
that would have
Like,
been the
like you
case.
said, we've discussed this to death, and it's like you guys said earlier. I'm fully expecting a first round exit this year.
Well, and then this game against the Habs, right? So you
Yeah, I
give
just
up a
saw the highlight.
2-goal lead, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know if Ryan, did you watch the game?
Yeah.
So you can't really fault Pickard for the first one, right? It was just kind of a bit of a fluke. I think it was Suzuki, right? It kind of bounced off the 1 foot.
That was a fine goal.
Like, nothing
Back
against
foot.
Pickard on that one. But then the other one, Caden Gooley, he came down the wing, screaming down the wing, had all the time in the world, all the space in the world, made a nice shot, right? So again, I'm not too upset about that from Pickard, but it's just like defensive coverage and what's happened to the power play. The power play has been absolutely abysmal lately.
It's funny for a fan base who has been screaming for 3 years about the fact we can't win in the playoffs, relying on our power play. Now we're like, well, we have no power play to rely on, and we're still going to get smoked in the playoffs. They'll figure it out. I think the power play will be fine. But man, I was texting a good friend of mine last night, and I was like, remember when our power play was fun to watch? Like, I don't know what this.
Yeah.
This Bouchard McDavid up top, look for Draisaitl all 2 minutes is just like our inability to adapt is disgusting. Like when we get a bounce on the power play, we'll score, but we don't look for bounces. We look for crossing passes all day. And it's so aggravating.
Yeah. Yep. It's predictable too, right? Every team in the league at this point now knows exactly what to look for.
If you give up a cross seam one-timer to Draisaitl, your PK coach should be fired at this point.
Yeah.
Just put 2 guys in that lane and we'll just pass it back and forth and keep looking and eventually pass it through those 2 guys. One of them will pick it off and away you go. It's
It's like there's no plan B. It's like that is their only play, and they'll just play pass until.
Yeah, we really need to we have a weapon at the blue line in Bouchard, and he's scared to shoot because he knows the play is give it to McDavid to look for a crossing pass. Unless when he comes down as the puck is, if Draisaitl gets it and doesn't shoot, there's sometimes a one-timer there for him. And he scores on dirty goals, score dirty goals. You know who would have been great at that? Tyler Toffoli.
Sure would have. But they've also got
Henrique's
Zach
goal
Hyman,
last night
and
was a
Zach
dirty
Hyman
goal, but-
is right there. Like let that guy just put one on net and let him look for in front of the net.
When was the last time, what Hyman brings to the power play is when McDavid's on the right side and Hyman stands on that post and just stands on that post and is wide open. When was the last time we saw that pass?
Yeah, it's been a
Like,
while.
they don't even look for Hyman. It's so frustrating. I don't think I've been this frustrated as an Oilers fan before being eliminated from the playoffs in a long time. The trade deadline, if I knew we were doing a trade deadline show today, I would have politely declined the invitation because we already did our episode on that.
No,
It
we've
was
It was more fun.
Here's what I realized. Oilers aside, I don't hate Vegas for what they've done. I hate the Oilers for not being Vegas. And what I mean by that is Jack Campbell should have developed an allergy to his equipment a month ago. And Connor Brown never should have played his 10th game. You think Vegas lets him play 10 games and lose $4 million against the cap next year? I know if Tyler was sitting here, he'd tell me how stupid I am, and that's fine. I understand it's going to be harder to get guys on contracts like that. But, he never should have played that game. Was it a great moment when he scored his first goal? Wow, amazing. Here we are. Connor Brown scored a goal. Feel good. The guy's making $5 million off our cap next year. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's not good.
Sorry. There's a lot I could talk about the deadline because it's been a couple weeks since I vented, but I'll try not to.
No, I like I said, part of the conversation here is just you and I haven't had this conversation in person or just, not through text message yet. So I was excited to kind of have that conversation with you, but maybe let's move on, Bruce. I think we've talked about the playoffs, if they were to leapfrog Vancouver, which in theory they could still do with 3 games in hand and 10 points back. Do we feel any better about playing Nashville than LA? Really, like Nashville's been one of the hottest teams in the NHL coming down the stretch here.
I think if we could get Nashville, I think we'd be okay in the first round. I think we'd get through it. LA, I'm not that, even with LA's issues this season, I am not that confident that the Oilers would make it past LA in the first round.
Yeah. I don't know. The fact that they didn't really do much at the deadline, like they didn't address the goaltending situation. They did nothing, right? And I know they had that one trade in place for Dubois that they were really like that would have been a great trade for them, which is funny they're already over Dubois, but I mean he's been a bit of a train wreck there, and
they're going to get Couturier here in the offseason.
Oh boy. How about that one? Hey, should we I don't know what else you had to talk about here, Bruce, around the league. That's pretty funny. It's probably a good segue.
Well, it's one of the things I put in around the league is so Torts benches Couturier, Atkinson, Mark Stahl. Britain invites the Leafs into Philadelphia, and they beat the Leafs without them. And it's like, and for me, that was kind of an interesting thing for me because I saw that morning, and I'm like, oh crap! I look at my fantasy lineup. Who have I got as my starting goalie for tonight? Erson. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to be good. I got to drop him and pick somebody up. So I had the whole thing laid out. And then I got busy at the end of the day. And by the time I looked at it, it was 5 minutes after the game started. I'm like, oh, crap.
Whoops.
It didn't look. So like half an hour later, it's like, okay, I'll take a look. The Flyers are up 2-0. Holy crap. This might turn out to be something.
And that's typical Leafs, hey, Bruce? Like, of course, Torts would bench all these guys and they would come out and beat the Leafs. But what do you think about Sean Couturier though, Bruce? I got to ask about that. Like, this is the captain of your team, and Torts just benched him.
Well, he's admitted too that he hasn't been doing well this past week. Like he said, but he didn't like the way Torts treated him, and that's the thing with Tortorella. It's like if you're not performing, if you're down a bit, he'll bench you. He doesn't care who you are. He's shown that in the past that he does not care. He'll just bench you. I think Couturier, like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if next year at the beginning of the season that Couturier is wearing a Boston Bruins jersey.
I could see it. At this point, there's so many guys that would be a fit in Boston just because they need help at the center position. But Ryan, we were just talking about Torts benching Couturier and Atkinson and Stahl, and what's your take on Couturier getting benched as the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers?
I'm not going to question John Tortorella or what he's done with that team.
Hey, that's probably fair. Look at the results, right?
You think you know better than Torts? Guy's going to win Coach of the Year this year.
One thing I was going to say, Bruce, is that actually it's kind of typical of Torts because he just treats everybody the same, right? It's like you either do your job or you don't, and he'll just sit you. It doesn't matter.
I mean, if Couturier wasn't the captain, would we even be talking about this the way he's played the last month?
No, that's a good point.
Sure, he's the first captain to be benched since 2017, I think. But that's Torts, man. That's why you hire him.
Yeah.
And those guys would run through a wall for that coach after what he's done to the reporter who posted that story about Kevin Hayes after I'm not leaving at the bench.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. I don't care what Couturier said. The guy's lucky to still be in the league with his paycheck. He's a decent player, but earn it. You're making $7 million and you play for Tortorella. You didn't think this was going to happen.
Yeah, get it together.
Sorry, I have to keep ducking out. My wife has a thrown out back, and we're sleep training a baby, so I'm trying to keep the interruptions to a total here.
Hey, man, we get it.
You have to wonder here too if Couturier's hit a wall, right? He hasn't played a full season of hockey now in 3 years.
Yeah,
with his back issues. I wonder if he's maybe hit a wall.
Maybe, but his paycheck, Bruce, dictates he's not allowed to. So
I know. I realize that. I just thinking out loud.
I mean, honestly, I understand Couturier wasn't happy about it, but you're right. He hasn't played as many games as he's played this season already in 3 or 4 years. If they're going to make the playoffs, a week off might do him some good right now.
Yeah. definitely add some motivation. That's for sure.
Do we want to talk about Kuznetsov, Bruce, and Gensel?
Yeah, I think it's worth a couple of seconds here to. They've settled in nicely here with their new team. Kuznetsov has 5 points since joining the Hurricanes, and Gensel has 8 points. So he's 4 games. Yeah, so Kuznetsov has 5 points in 4 games. Gensel has 8 points in 4 games.
Playing on a line
new
together.
second line for the Hurricanes.
Yeah. How's that for a trade deadline, Ryan?
Carolina's going to take the East. Do you see what they paid for Gensel?
Yeah, nothing.
It's like you said, Kuznetsov and Gensel are playing together. They gave up maybe a first round pick. They gave up the 5th, 6th, and 7th prospects on their stupid deep prospect list.
Yeah.
And they got Kuznetsov for free. I mean, he's a risk. He makes $4 million next year with the retention, but that's 2/3 of their second line right now, and they got it for arguably slightly more than we paid for Adam Henry.
Yep. So it's been great, and from a fantasy perspective, I was able to pick up Kuznetsov. He was just sitting there on the wire, right? So I thought, hey, I'm gonna pick that guy up, and it's paid some dividends here. So that's been good to see. But I think, sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
Hey, Kuznetsov is happy, right? He was looking for a change, right? Because just things weren't working out in Washington for him anymore. And new team and an opportunity to win. Because this like Carolina doesn't do these moves normally. They're kind of like what the Oilers do every year, right? It's like a little thing here and there, nothing major, right? Well, they just revamped 2/3 of their second line. Carolina doesn't do this, so it's working out well for them.
I mean, the difference there is that Carolina is a threat to win the East every year. And last year in particular, I totally give them a pass on not going all in. Every team in the East went all in. So why would you for Carolina? You're like, they've still got reinforcements coming.
Yeah.
They don't need to go all in. And like I said, for the price they paid this year, is that even an all-in move? Like they could have.
No,
they didn't move a single guaranteed first.
Yeah.
So that's an easy choice for them. By the way, Tulski from Carolina might be the next Oilers GM if we're lucky at all. They're rumored to be looking
Tulski?
at him.
Is that?
Yeah,
nice.
Assistant there. I'd take him in a heartbeat. That Carolina team is such a well-run organization. It's so the opposite of what we see in Edmonton.
So since you mentioned, do you think Carolina's going to take the East? Who's your team right now? Who do you see taking the West? Give me your Stanley Cup Final prediction.
Tough to bet against Colorado right now. It'll be Colorado or Vegas. I think that'll be the Western Final. If I had to pick one, I'll take Colorado just because I don't think that Vegas can catch their guys as easily as they caught us.
Right.
You know, where they had to stop McDavid and Dry and they shut us down, but Colorado's got depth. They can spread that around, and you know, they've got that kid Kovalenko coming from Russia, just arrived in Denver yesterday. He's a very good player. If Landeskog comes back, good luck.
Well, and that the timing might work out just fine because they said May, right? So if Colorado gets through the first round, yeah, I think he should be available for the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know that. I think it's a risky move considering the guy, you know, just missed a year and a bit because he didn't know when to stop in the playoffs, but they got their cup. If he comes back, they're frightening. Still a great D. Makar is still the best D in the league for my dollars.
Devon Taves is fantastic. I mean, like
Taves is very good. How about that? Did you guys talk about the Byram Middlestat deal at all?
I think we talked about it, Bruce.
Yeah.
I like that a lot for Colorado. Like Middlestat to me in Colorado makes a ton of sense. I didn't anticipate Buffalo using Byram the way they've been using him.
It was a great trade for both of them. Byram was massively underutilized in Colorado. He was probably their best D in the finals when they won the cup. And Buffalo has so much forward depth coming up over the next couple of years. Middlestat's like expendable. Like it's not often you can say that, but they're a little short at center, maybe. I mean, you're rocking Thompson and Cousins down the middle on your top two lines. So Middlestat was expendable, and they got, another top five defenseman, and no one can say that Buffalo has too much high-end defense right now. And yeah, you're seeing what he's doing. So
Yeah.
it's a great. It was a very good hockey trade. It made sense for Colorado because we've seen what they can do with a competent second line center.
Yeah.
And Byram was wasting away on the third line there, and getting out from the injury risk, I think, is a good move for them too. But interesting deal for sure. One of my certainly my favorite deal of the deadline. I love a good hockey trade. They're so rare at the deadline.
Yeah. That was good. I liked it.
I did too. I was surprised, but it's like I've always been a fan of Middlestat. I really can't put my finger on why, but I've always been a fan. And Buffalo, I'm hoping that Buffalo can take all this talent they've got now and coming up and actually do something with it.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hoping, because they haven't had a good team since, what was it?
Kenny Briere.
Yeah. They had Briere, Drury, and who else was it?
Kenov was on that team. They had Brian Campbell.
Yeah.
Brian Miller was the goalie.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, remember when Brian Campbell murdered RJ Hamburger? One of the biggest hits of all time.
Yeah,
that was a heck of a team. I think they won the President's Trophy that year, and then Drury went to the Rangers, Briere went to the Flyers. Like, they got decimated by free agency.
Yeah.
Sucked.
Yeah, they flamed out. Is that the year No, that wasn't the year they lost to Dallas, was it?
No, that was
that team.
That was 99.
Stanley Cup, like Brett Hall.
That was 99, I think, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while.
It has. Yeah. I think we're talking about 2004 or 5 right now. That Cup Final was before that. That was back when they had Hasek still, not Miller.
Hey, so we're about 32 minutes in here, guys. We definitely just jumped over the break, but we've got a lot of people tuned in and watching and listening. So maybe because we want to get this wrapped up, I think around 10 o'clock tonight. So we should dig into our players to watch for next season. That's kind of why we brought Ryan on. Ryan, I think that's maybe why you agreed to come on, not to gripe about the Edmonton Oilers and the trade deadline so much. But
I'm happy to do it.
So what do you think, Bruce?
For sure. We've got a nice little lineup here for to keep Ryan busy here for the next 27 minutes.
You guys better hope my baby doesn't wake up again, or you're screwed.
Well, we better rip through it then. Let's get to it.
All right. Let us start off with Mr. Logan Stankoven.
Scored again tonight.
He did. Little note from the NHL. He is the third fastest player in Dallas and Minnesota North Star history to record 10 points in 10 games. 12 games. Sorry.
That's such a stupid.
We should preface this too, or as preface, as some people say. Yeah. Just the whole conversation here is based around players who are either rookies or undrafted, or basically just prospects, right, Bruce, that we're looking at to be productive NHL players potentially for next season. So if you're in redraft leagues or dynasty keepers, whatever, these are some players you want to keep an eye on. I think Logan Stankoven's probably not a big secret at this point, but he's been absolutely lights out. So,
and it's worth leading into this. Drafting rookies in a redraft 1-year league is never a good idea. If they're not Connor Bedard, it's never a good idea. Go look at the top scoring rookie of the year every year. They got 60 points. 56 I think is the average. So you look at how many guys drafted Logan Cooley this year. Stankoven's probably the exception on this list, and I myself am guilty of it. I was beating Devon Levi's drum really hard in the summer because I didn't think UPL was worth his skates. But
you're gonna look like Linus Ullmark this year, yeah.
He's been very good. I still think Levi is long term an absolute stud. But Stankoven's a guy who is worth drafting next year. We're already seeing it. And Dallas is such a wagon. Like, he's playing on the third line with Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Next year it'll be the second line because Duchesne is gone. Ben presumably keeps dropping. He plays second and third line at times. But Stankoven's just the only thing The only question mark with him that kept him out of everyone's top 10 drafted prospect list this year was his size. Then he went to the AHL and led the league in scoring. And the question was still his size. Well, he had a 4-point game against San Jose earlier in the month. Unreal. Like one of the best third periods I've seen in a long time. I mean, it was Dallas just smacked San Jose around, but it was like watching that line. Johnston had 3 goals, 2 assists. Stankoven was 2 and 2. And dominant on a team with Robertson and Duchesne and Rupe Hintz and Miro Heiskanen, and it was these two 20-year-olds coming in and just absolutely taking over. So yeah,
and is he? He's like 5'8", isn't he?
If he's on his tiptoes, yeah.
Okay, so Bruce, the short guy strikes again. Love it.
Who is the last one?
No, Bruce just likes to bug Tyler and I about being short guys, but you know what?
Joshy Roy is doing pretty good in Montreal too. If you want to crap on short guys, he's looking good.
No, we don't want to crap. I'm just saying respect the short guys. We got game 2, man. Okay.
Do you?
Should have watched these guys in the heavy hockey showdown. They put up some points.
Tyler and I, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Tyler and I both assisted on each other's goals, and we had some fun with Michael, who's like 7 feet tall, and then us 2 midgets basically just managed to score a goal against him. And we had a lot of fun, actually. It was good times. But, yeah.
Once you figured out where your sticks were, you know.
Oh boy, I bought new skates like the day before, and they weren't sharpened at all. So like, Pro Hockey Life gets a thumbs down for me for not sharpening my skates at all. That was pretty rough. But anyway,
we're looking for sponsors, man. Don't say that stuff.
I'm just saying they gotta like sharpen your skates better. Anyway, Cutter Gauthier, next guy on the list. So Ryan, tell us about Cutter Gauthier. I know you're pretty high on this guy.
Philadelphia fans call him Quitter Gauthier after he demanded the trade out of Philadelphia. Yeah, I mean, he just co-MVP of the World Juniors. He was not his usual goal-scoring self in that tournament. He's helping lead Boston to a national title this year. He, in my mind, is a top 15 prospect. I like him better in Anaheim than I liked him on Philly. He's on the cusp. Like I said, don't draft these guys in a 1-year league. Cutter, maybe. Anaheim is a deep team that is set for a breakout, much like Buffalo, much like Ottawa, much like, people thought Detroit would do for the whole year instead of 3/4 of the year. Anaheim might score a lot of goals next year, so he's worth a late round flyer. Gauthier scores goals. I would say outside of the NHL, him and Lecker Mackey probably have the best shots. This guy goes crossbar down regularly. He doesn't need a lot of room to get his shot off, and he's going to play with, Lucas Carlson or Zegras or McTavish next year. We've talked about him a lot this year. I'm a big fan, but 1-year league, I don't know. Keeper league, get your hands on him
for sure.
He'll score 50 next year. There's my prediction: 50 points, not goals.
50. I was gonna say 50 goals. That's bold. Okay, 50 points for
or 50 goals, 0 assists. If we're 50 points, one way or the other.
Either way, it's 50.
Yeah.
All right, next guy up here.
Jimmy Snuggerud.
Oh, Snuggy Bear. Yeah, sorry, I left him out of the best shot. He might have the best shot too. Those 3. Snuggerud. Oh man, that guy he's just such a sniper. He's going to score 40 goals in the NHL. He's coming up to St. Louis, which is, they are short on top 6 talent with Shen falling off a cliff. They've got Kyrou. Neighbors maybe is in that conversation now. They've got Thomas and they've got Buchnevich. Snuggerud is their next top 6 guy. He's going to be very good with Robert Thomas. He's exactly what Robert Thomas needs. I could see him scoring 25 to 30 goals as early as next year. I think he'll be a 40-goal scorer. I think he might flirt with 50 at some point if everything goes really well in St. Louis. Very good player. I don't know that he's a guy I'm taking in a 1-year league next year. Even if he scores 25 goals, he might only hit 40 points. He's not a puck mover, really. He's a shot. He reminds me a lot of like early career Alexander Semin, where the guy scores goals from ridiculous areas. He puts the puck wherever he wants it, and you don't see it coming. Cutter's a little more blatant in his movement. But yeah, Snugger would just kind of find space and pots it. He's a very, very good player. Top 20 prospect. And should get decent ice next year in St. Louis. So worth looking at. Late round pick. I'd look at him, depending on your league size.
Okay. What about Frank Nazar? Because he's a guy. There's a lot of hype around him this year. Any chance we see him as a full-time regular next season in Chicago?
Yes. Here's why. One, he's perfect for Connor Bedard. He is a puck hound. He is fast. He is a very good passer. More importantly, if Chicago doesn't get a top, one pick this year, I don't think Bedard wants to do this year again. I don't think he wants to skate with Nick Foligno and Kurashev or whoever it is they've got him with. I think he'd like some talent to play with. So Nazar is probably ready. I could see him going back to Michigan for another year, but he's probably ready to play. And he will definitely sign if they say we need someone to play with Connor Bedard. And I think that Bedard would push for that move. So if he comes up and he plays with Bedard, draft him.
Okay.
Which obviously you won't know at the time he drafts next year. But if he's looking like he's going to make the team, even with a late round pick, you take him, and if he doesn't make it, you find someone on waivers. There's always guys on waivers in the first month.
That's one of those swings you take late in the draft, hey Bruce?
Absolutely. Hey, my last pick of the draft this year was Mark Stone. He lasted 2/3 of the season, so I'm pretty happy with that.
That's good value for Mark Stone.
Okay.
He who should not be named. Yeah. Okay. Right. What about Macklin Celebrini? Like, how does he compare to recent number ones, Ryan? And is that a guy you look at drafting in redraft leagues next season?
Yeah, I mean he's going to end up in San Jose, Chicago, Columbus. If he ends up in San Jose, he's top line center tomorrow.
Yeah.
If he ends up in Chicago, he's getting power play time with Bedard. He's having one of the best 17-year-old seasons of all time. He's a top 2 or 3 player in the NCAA as a 17-year-old. He was obviously Canada's best player at the World Juniors. He's a guy who should pretty easily get 50 points next year. If all things go well, he could hit 60. Or if he's in Chicago, I'm not waiting till late to take him. I might take him a little earlier. San Jose a bit less so, just a lack. He's playing with William Eklund in San Jose. So some of it depends on where he gets drafted, but he'll play next year and he'll be a good player. I could see a Jack Hughes progression with him, where he maybe will take a little bit longer because he's not huge, but he's smarter than Jack Hughes was at this age. I think that he could. I mean, at 17, the things he's doing in university is just crazy. So I think he'll put up 50 points plus next year, depending where he goes. But yeah, I'm looking at Celebrini for sure.
Okay. Yuri Kulich, I've heard you talk about this guy quite a bit throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for him. I traded Stankoven for him, a 23rd overall and a 35th overall at the deadline in one league, a week before they called up Stankoven.
Okay, so give us the breakdown then. What's
feel good.
What's your obsession with this guy?
Well, he did things in the AHL as a rookie that were ridiculous. He's a very, very good AHL player at age 18 and 19. He is a one-shot scorer, similar to the guys we've talked about already. The issue for me with Kulich is just opportunity in Buffalo. As long as Jeff Skinner is there, Alex Tuck, like that top 6 is fairly full, but Kulich is a guy who he'll score 40 in the league. It just might not be for Buffalo. So I think we're going to see some moves in Buffalo this year. I think we're going to see some consolidation of talent. They've got Kulich. They've got Rosen doing very well in the AHL as well. They've got a top 10 pick this year. Like they just have a ton of talent coming up in that organization. So I could see a couple moves where they kind of consolidate that. I just like to beat Kulich's drum as much as I can. So eventually I can say, see? But I wouldn't draft him next year.
Okay.
Nikolai Kovalenko. So he is defense for
Nope.
Colorado.
Nope. He
No?
is a forward for Colorado.
Forward?
Yeah.
Did I read his player page wrong then?
You know, I think that someone has his player page wrong because someone else said he was a D-man too, and I was like, I don't know, he's pretty sure he's not. He's a right winger. He's 24 years old. He's a 6th round pick by the Colorado Avalanche in 2018. But he put up 35 points in 42 KHL games this year. A couple guys I know who watch a lot of Russian hockey, like I don't even know how they find the time to watch this much hockey, say he is not that far off from Panarin at that age. So,
Oh, wow.
and he's going to Colorado where, you know, Lehkonen might make more sense as a third liner at even strength. Druin, do you trust what Druin's doing? Like, if he gets top 6 ice, look out because he's 24. He's a big, like the kid is. He's a very, very big body, which Colorado doesn't have a lot of. He's 190, sorry, 5'10", but he's thick. Like the guy's really, really hard to move off the puck. He brings a lot of what Colorado needs. Excuse me. So I would actually advocate if you're in the playoffs and if you're short a guy and if there's no one who's catching your eye, don't let him sit on waivers for too long because he might be worth a pickup this year. Next year, he's definitely worth a pickup.
So
24-year-old rookies, like he could score 60 next year.
But I'm going to ask, so because how much trust do you put in these comparisons between players that are in the KHL and like, because I'm just saying Kuzmenko, right? We saw what Kuzmenko did in his first year. He was good. But now look at him in his second year in the NHL. And a lot of people were saying the same thing, that this guy is comparable or better than Artemi Panarin when, you know, in his year in Russia before he came over. And it's like, yeah,
That is
but
such
not
low hanging fruit. The guy shot 30% last year.
I know I'm not trying to crap on the guy again, but I'm just saying, like, not every player is Artemi Panarin that comes from Russia. Right?
No, I agree. I agree with that. However, even if he was Kuzmenko, are you happy with a guy that scores 40 goals, even if it's only in the 1 year you own him?
For fantasy, all day, right? For sure.
You are.
Yeah, all day, buddy.
And that was on a very bad Vancouver team, I might add. Now,
yeah,
obviously Vancouver prioritized winning this year, and Tocchet's a better coach than Boudreau was for that team, and Kuzmenko didn't fit the bill, but I think Kuzmenko is going to score 30 again in this league at some point. How much stock do I put in those comparisons? Well, I don't see enough KHL to know.
Right.
I know I've been reading about this kid for a year and a half. I know his highlight reel is impressive. I know he's going to a team that scores a lot of goals. So,
okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Like 50, 60 points next year, that seems doable. I mean,
yeah,
just with Colorado's top 6, Lehkonen misses some time, you know, Druin, who knows what you're getting from Druin next year. There's a top 6 spot potentially up for grabs for, you know, a 24-year-old kid. So I'm trying to get him. He's a hard guy in dynasty leagues to get, man. Like, people that own him, don't let him go. So
what's his Fantrax number, Bruce?
What's that?
So what's his Fantrax percentage of rostered? Because I'm sure that's going to be pretty telling too.
17%.
It's pretty high for a guy who's never played an NHL game.
Those Fantrax dynasty guys know. Hey, Ryan.
That's an off-season episode. We talk about how we're never ever doing Yahoo again.
We got about 10 minutes here, guys, so we should probably get into D-men here. Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, let's jump to the D-men. Let's start off with Mr. Brant Clark.
Ooh, I love Brant Clark. Draft him. I jumped the gun on him a bit this year. I thought that LA would ease him into the power play, and by this time he'd be running power play 1, because I don't think it makes sense the way they're running Drew Doughty into the ground. I don't. I think if you're trying to win a cup, Doughty should be at 24 minutes a game in the regular season. And you've got a kid here who's setting records in the OHL playoffs. He was 2 points per game there. He was third in scoring in the AHL when they called him up a month ago as a D-man rookie. He has all the offensive talent in the world. Go read any LA Kings thread on Twitter or Reddit or what's the other one? Threads. I don't know if people read that. But read LA Kings fans' takes on why he's not playing. It's really more of an indictment on the coaching staff than anything else.
Oh, it's Todd McClellan. It's Todd McClellan all day. Like he plays his veterans and he ignores his rookies. That's all it is.
Yeah. So next year, I do think that he will do better. I mean, he saw the game-winning goal where he came out of the penalty box. I can't remember who they were playing, but that's a good-looking
Calgary, wasn't it?
Goal. Was that Calgary? Yeah. Yeah. And then he had 5 points in 10 games or something. And then the issue with LA is they have Jordan Spence, who is coming up on decision time as far as waiver eligibility goes. I think they want to be sure that they're making the right move with Clark. They are, but I think it's a little bit of a showcase with Spence too. He might get the Walker treatment this summer and get moved, and they'll probably regret moving him, but they won't regret playing Brent Clark more. Next year, I think, a Luke Hughes type season for him is what we should be looking for. Lots of power play time.
Okay.
Moving right along, Mr. Olen Zellweger.
Almost the exact same thing. The only difference I would say is that he has higher end young talent he's competing with against in Anaheim with Mityukov there. But if you're not playing Zellweger on power play one, you're wasting him. You don't play Olen Zellweger for his even strength minutes, although he probably will get a lot of nice breakout passes up the middle. He's a guy who you should be playing on the power play. Like I said earlier, I think Anaheim's going to score a lot. I'd be taking. I often kind of fade D-men in drafts. I'll try and get one or two high ones, and then I try and snag them late. Zellweger and Clark are both guys that I'll be looking to snag late next year.
And Anaheim is actually utilizing him a lot more than the Kings are utilizing Brant Clark.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose. That's fine.
For sure. But I mean, well, and the coaching staff there too. I look at the way that McClellan has run things forever. We saw it firsthand here in Edmonton. But Zellweger's actually getting power play time, and he's almost playing 19 minutes a game, right? So,
well, he's their third best defenseman right now after Mityukov, and Radko Gudas is having a very good year. Fowler's
Fowler, and no Drysdale, right? So,
well, Drysdale's gone.
That's what I mean. And that's what I mean. No Drysdale,
yeah.
right? So yeah, it's just like there's open up some opportunity there.
Yeah, there's a chance, and he's a very, very good player. I mean, we all saw him in the World Juniors with Bedard, but I actually thought he was better the year before when he was just lights out a year younger, and he's a big kid. A clip came out of Ducks training camp, not this past summer, but the summer before, and the kid is like ripped. He's not huge. I think he's 5'10". But he's certainly making an effort to be a guy you can play at even strength, which is more than you can say for a lot of young, flashy D-men. Sometimes they're like, whatever, I'm going to score goals. But this kid, he wants to play 25 minutes a night.
So we got about 6 minutes here, guys. I'm just going to ask you really quick, Ryan, and we'll have some time probably to get through these three. Hey, Bruce, but which one of these three goaltending prospects are you most excited about for next season?
Askarov, Wolf, and Wallstedt.
Yeah.
It's impossible to say right now. Is Saros getting traded? Because then it's Askarov. Sure. Is Markstrom getting traded? Because then it's probably Wolf. He's not going to win as much as Askarov might in Nashville. And Wallstedt overall is a very appealing package. He's huge. He's having a good year in the AHL. You can't say it. That's the thing. I think the top 3-4 goalie prospects, it's a coin toss. I think they're all very good players to own for the next 5 to 10 years. But when it comes to next year, it's all about opportunity, and we don't know what that's going to look like.
So, okay, let's say this then. I'm going to operate on this assumption that Marc-Andre Fleury retires, so he's gone. So you've got Wallstedt probably taking backup duties for sure in Minnesota. Saros stays in Nashville, at least for one more season. and Markstrom goes, he gets traded at the draft or something, based on what we know about that deal they had in place with the Devils,
Then
I'm
it's
assuming
Wolf.
that Markstrom's gone.
Then it's Wolf. If Saros and Markstrom stay, then it's Wallstedt, because he could steal. He might play 40 games in that scenario with Gustafsson there, who hasn't been very reliable. Otherwise, I take the guy. The clearest path to ice really is who you're going to be taking there, because they're all equally capable. Wolf is small.
Mm-hmm.
Askarov is tremendously athletic, and Wallstedt's huge. Like these guy's a monster. So yeah, I would take the guy with the clearest path to ice time next year, even if it's in Calgary for Wolf. He looked really good against Vegas the other night.
He's had some good starts here recently. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the thing about Wolf is if you followed him at all, he wins goaltender of the league in every league he's in ever, all the time. He won the dub. He's won the AHL. Like, it's just a matter of time till he figures out the NHL. And I don't care that he's 5'10". I love the player.
So is he going to win a Vezina one day?
Probably.
He's won everything else, right?
Goaltenders are going, who knows, man? Who's going to win the Vezina this year?
A good question.
It was Hellebuyck for a long time. It's goaltending has never been less predictable than it is right now. It's Shesterkin's bouncing back the last month.
Finally, yeah. But Ottinger still had a rough season.
Ottinger's had a rough season. Sorokin's had a rough season. Saros has had a rough season. All the guys you count on. The only one who really, I think the most consistent top 5 goalie over the last 4 years is Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
Overall, but like I said 3 or 4 years ago, Shesterkin's the guy you should own all the time forever. If you have him, never let him go. Yes and no. Like sometimes he's winning people their leagues the last month. He certainly won me a league last year, but like most of this season, John Quick was the better goalie in New York. So
yeah, Hellebuck's been phenomenal all year long. He's at a .923 save percentage. There's literally nothing to complain about with Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah, but what did he have? 18 games with less than 2 goals or something?
Yeah, pretty outrageous. Like they've just been on and it's so funny. You look at where Winnipeg was, and we thought Hellebuyck was leaving, Scheifele was leaving. They're going to blow everything up, and then look at where they are. Like we didn't even talk about these guys as a potential to make the Western Conference Final, right? But they definitely could.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take them over Dallas or Colorado.
I still
think Dallas is much like LA. We haven't seen peak Dallas. We haven't seen peak LA. And Colorado hasn't had Landeskog all year. So
goaltending, man, right? Goaltending in the playoffs. Like if Hellebuyck has a .940, look at Aiden Hill last year for Vegas. He had a .935 or .940 save percentage, and sometimes that's the difference. If Ottinger is awful, the way that he's shown at times, and
but what if Ottinger is Calgary Ottinger?
And that, well, exactly. So that for me, it's that's always kind of the deal breaker is which goaltender shows up.
And here's the thing: is Hellebuyck has played now in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 playoffs. He hasn't won a cup yet. So the Hellebuyck card to me is like, yes, goaltending wins playoffs, but he hasn't.
No, that's fair. Guys, we had about 60 seconds here. So anything else you want to mention before we sign off?
Nice to see you guys again. I'm surprised we went this long without talking about the trade deadline. God, I was so depressed. I'm still
just fired up about it. Yeah,
I can't even be mad. Last night I wasn't even mad about the Montreal game because I was like, of course it is. We went to overtime against them last time too. It's Montreal. Pull your heads out of it, guys. Like this is I'm so sick.
Hacks Hangout After Hours starring Ryan Black. Trade deadline.
Fantasy hockey hacks. Get a drink.
Yeah, no.
Sponsored by Wisers. As in Oilers management is none the wisers.
Oh man, I like it. That's
awesome. I like that.
Hey,
okay, guys. Yeah, Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Bruce, we got 8 seconds. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys. We're gonna have another episode here on Sunday. We'll talk about some more fantasy stuff.
Absolutely. Hey,
take care, boys.
Good night, everybody.
Adios.